soft, sweet, buttery and comforting. Hey, I'm Nick and today we're making Jamaican cocoa bread. Let's get right into it. With the exception of maybe coconut milk, cocoa bread is close to your standard yeast though. I weigh ingredients including the liquids to reliably get great cocoa bread every single time. With only 6 or 7 ingredients, making a delicious cocoa bread is really simple. Before we start, all the ingredients are room temperature. No heating or nothing like that. In a bowl, start with 4 ounces of coconut milk. This ingredient is essential because it not only gives cocoa bread its name, but also that sweet, rich taste. 4 ounces whole milk for added richness. This could easily be 4 ounces water or 4 more ounces of coconut milk, but using both milks give that rich classic cocoa bread taste. 2 tablespoons brown sugar for a bit of additional sweetness, and to feed the next ingredient, half tablespoon instant yeast. And finally, half teaspoon salt to bring all the flavors together. Next, we mix to dissolve everything. This recipe needs a total of 8 ounces of liquid, so you can play around with the ratios to personalize your cocoa bread. To the liquid mixture, I am adding 16 ounces all-purpose flour. I'm only adding about a little over half the flour and reserve the rest for later. Mix till the flour is hydrated and let it rest at room temperature for about 10 minutes. Doing it this way improves flavor, texture and starts early gluten development. Cocoa bread is one of the most iconic Jamaican foods, even though Caribbean islands have different versions. Folding bread and butterflap are just some of the names this goes by. A good cocoa bread is hands down the best sandwich bread, no exception. It's so good we even use it to make a beef patty and cocoa bread sandwich, which even as a Jamaican is crazy to me. It makes a banger escovite saltfish sandwich, pairs perfectly with jerk, and I just recently found out how good this is with Jamaican curry. Yush! After 10 minutes we can add the remaining flour. This is a low hydration dough at 50%. The flour will take a good amount of kneading to fully work in and get hydrated. And that's where the butter comes in. The fat and the water in the butter will help to hydrate the rest of the flour. Next, simply knead until all the ingredients are mixed completely. It will still be kinda rough, but that's okay. As long as the ingredients are mixed in properly, it's good. Next, we boil this up for a 15-minute bulk ferment. While this is fermenting, the dough will relax and make gluten development easier, so we don't need to go crazy with too much kneading. 15 minutes seems short, but that's to prevent overproofing. We will be handling this a fair bit later, so just be conservative. Letting it get 40 to 50% bigger is good enough. That's a lot softer now. The combination of milk, coconut milk and butter enriches the dough and helps it achieve softness despite the low hydration. Fold the dough over onto itself and ball it up. This makes the dough much smoother and give it structure by developing gluten. Alright, time to portion this out. You can eyeball this to get the portions you want, but if you want consistency, using weight is the most reliable way. I'm using a kitchen scale to weigh the entire dough first. I've made this recipe quite a bit now and I consistently get 26 ounces. Maybe an extra half ounce or a bit more, but always 26 point something. Next, we simply divide the total weight by the amount of the portions we want. I'm going for 6 loaves, so divide that by 6. That's about 4.5 ounces, but when weighing, I just try to get them as close to that 4.5 as possible. Close enough is good enough. Next step, we fold over each portion onto itself and ball it up. This adds additional structure to the cocoa bread. You could roll out the entire dough into a sheet and maybe use a cookie cutter to cut out each round, but that's not very efficient and you will have trimmings to deal with. Trimmings are annoying, this is way better. Next we use a rolling pin to roll out each one. Rotate to ensure we get a nice even thickness. These cocoa bread will be double folded, so I'm rolling thinner than I would go for a single fold. I'll show you more on that in a second. This is one of those times where you don't have to worry about getting a perfectly round circle. I think that having irregular edges add to the charm of the finished product. A big benefit of a low hydration dough is no sticking, so no flouring of the work surface. So this is the major reason we want to underproof our dough early on. Rolling and shaping takes a decent amount of time, and in that time the dough is still proofing. This gives us better margins to work with. I have a generously grease and lined baking tray to prevent any sticking. We also need some additional melted butter to brush with. This could probably be a lot thinner. Next, brush one side generously with butter. Fold in half. Brush again. Fold in half again. Next, use your finger to punch 3 holes in a triangular pattern. Go deep, but don't go through. Those indents will keep the cocoa bread layers stable so they don't fall apart when you move them. If I was making the regular sandwich cocoa bread, I would only fold once. This more compact double folded cocoa bread is usually only found at smaller bakeries. This is not something you're likely to find at bigger chains like a Juicy Patties. I might be wrong, you can always let me know in the comments. These are the stuff I grew up on though, and the simple act of folding it one additional time makes it way better. When I was in primary school, I used to have chicken and chips, aka fries, in white poly bags for lunch. Whenever the vendor ran out of fries, she would give us these cocoa bread instead. But I always requested the cocoa bread up front with ketchup and hot pepper sauce. Yup, those are some delicious memories. This next step helps to give us a great crust. Spritz with water to make the surface of the cocoa bread tacky. This helps give us a nice even rise by delaying crust formation, and when the crust does form, it gets nice and thick, and it also browns really well. As expected, this was a bit underproof, so I'm resting for another 5 minutes. 5 minutes was enough to preheat the oven. Between 375 and 400 degrees for 15 to 20 minutes is good. A few minutes in, before the surface of the cocoa bread completely dries out, you want to spritz it with water again, just to maintain that tacky surface for a bit longer. Next, we simply let it get golden brown. Rotate the baking tray for even browning if necessary. Wow, these are ready when they are golden brown like this. That is it. All that's left now is to brush with butter. That butter will help to soften up the nice golden brown crust and ups the richness a bit more. The one thing this video can't convey is the awesome smell this has. The combination of that cocoa bread scent and melted butter is just crazy. The last time I made cocoa bread, I almost got burned, so I'm going to let these cool down a bit before trying them. Those are honestly the best cocoa bread ever, and even if you don't have any baking experience, you can still crush these, so make sure you give it a shot. I try to make it as uncomplicated as possible, skipping some of the unnecessary steps. One of the best snacks is cocoa bread and cheese. The last time I made cocoa bread, some of you really come after me about me I use the wrong cheese. I use whatever cheese I feel like, but I have to agree with you that Jamaican Tasties cheese holds a special place. It's probably the best tasting processed cheese I know, and it pairs perfectly with bread and buns, especially sweeter varieties. Yes man, this is it. The half-folded cocoa bread is usually served in brown paper bag, but I had to get the white poly bag as a throwback to school days. That greasy buttery feel on the inside of the bag is part of the pleasure of eating one of these cocoa bread.